Cave of the Crystals. The Cave of the Crystals is the most beautiful place on Earth that will kill you the fastest. It sits nearly 1,000 feet below the Naka mine in Mexico. Miners found it by accident in the year 2000 while draining water to dig for silver. They broke through a wall and the light fell on something no human had ever seen, crystals, enormous ones. Beams of clear rock as long as buses, crossing the chamber in every direction. Some are over 30 feet long. They are the largest natural crystals ever found anywhere on the planet. But the miners could not stay. Down there, the air sits at around 136 degrees. The humidity is almost total. Breathe it in and water condenses inside your lungs. Without a cooled suit and a mask of chilled air, a person lasts only minutes before their body begins to fail. The crystals grew because of that heat. For maybe 500,000 years. Mineral-rich water filled the chamber at a perfect, unmoving temperature. And the crystals grew a hair's width at a time in the dark. Then, in 2017, scientists reported something stranger. Trapped inside the crystals, in tiny pockets of ancient liquid, they found microbes. Life sealed away for tens of thousands of years. And in the lab, some of it woke up. When the mining stopped, the pumps were switched off, the water came back. The greatest crystal cave on Earth is flooded again now, sealed beneath the ground it came from, growing in the dark where no one can reach it. Krubera Cave. Krubera Cave is the deepest hole a human being has ever climbed down into. It opens in the mountains of Georgia, high on a cold limestone plateau. From the surface, it is nothing. A small dark slot in the rock, but it drops. For years it held the record as the deepest known cave on Earth, falling more than 2 kilometers straight into the planet. Reaching the bottom is not a hike. It is an expedition that can take weeks. Teams live underground for days at a time, sleeping in tents pitched on ledges, hauling their gear down cliff after cliff in permanent darkness. And the cave does not want them there. In places the passage floods completely, to go deeper. Divers have to pull themselves through flooded tunnels called sumps, with no air above them, feeling along the rock. Trusting a rope back to the world. In 2012, one diver pushed to the deepest point anyone had ever reached, more than 7,000 feet below the entrance, then the water stopped him. Beyond that the cave keeps going, no one knows how far. The real fear down there is the weather far above. A storm on the surface can send water pouring into the system with no warning. Explorers have been trapped by rising floods, waiting in the dark for the cave to let them leave. Every cave like this has a bottom. This one has simply never shown anyone where it is, Sac Actun. Sac Actun is the longest flooded cave on Earth, and it is full of the dead. It lies under the jungle of the Yucatan in Mexico. On the surface you would never know it is there. Just still, round pools of water in the green called cenotes, each one is a doorway. Below them, the water connects into a single drowned maze that runs for hundreds of kilometers. For a long time, divers mapped its tunnels one piece at a time. Then, in 2018, they proved that 2 giant systems were actually one. Overnight, it became the longest underwater cave ever found, stretching more than 200 miles through the rock. The ancient Maya believed these pools were the entrance to the underworld, a place of gods and the dead, and they treated it that way. Divers keep finding human bones down in the black water, along with offerings left behind more than 1,000 years ago. Deeper still, the cave holds older secrets. In a flooded pit within the system, explorers found the skeleton of a young girl who died there around 13,000 years ago. She is one of the oldest humans ever found in the Americas. Around her lay the bones of animals that no longer exist. The water preserved all of it perfectly. A frozen moment from the end of the Ice Age, kept in the dark, waiting for someone with a light to swim in and find it. Movile Cave. Movile Cave is a place that has not seen the sun in over 5 million years. It hides in Romania near the Black Sea. No one knew it was there until 1986, when workers digging into the ground broke into it by pure chance. What they opened had been sealed off from the outside world since before humans existed. The air inside is poison, there is almost no oxygen. Instead, it is thick with carbon dioxide and clouds of hydrogen sulfide, the gas that smells like rotten eggs. A person cannot breathe it. Scientists who enter can only stay for a short time and only with care, and yet the cave is alive. Cut off from sunlight for so long, life down there found another way. The whole ecosystem runs on chemistry instead of the sun. Bacteria feed on the poison gases, and everything else feeds on the bacteria. More than 30 of the creatures living in Movile exist nowhere else on Earth. Blind, pale spiders, colorless leeches. Strange scorpions that have never known light. Sealed together in a bubble of foul air, evolving on their own for millions of years, into things the surface has never seen. It is one of the closest things we have to an alien world, and it was sitting quietly under a hillside the whole time. Very few people have ever been allowed inside. Most of Movile has never been touched at all. Lechuguilla Cave. Lechuguilla Cave is a hidden world so clean and so fragile that almost no one is permitted to enter it. It runs beneath the desert of New Mexico. For most of history, it was just a small, dusty pit that miners once dug for bat guano. Then, in 1986, cavers cleared a rubble floor and felt wind roaring up from below. They dug through, and behind it a vast, untouched cave opened up. What they found stunned them. Over 140 miles of passages, decorated with formations found almost nowhere else, delicate crystal chandeliers. Fields of white gypsum hairs, whole rooms that no eye had ever seen. Because it had been sealed, it was perfectly pristine, so it was locked back up. Today, only a handful of approved scientists and surveyors are ever allowed in, moving carefully so they do not spoil a single formation. But the most unsettling discovery was invisible. On the cave walls live microbes that have been isolated down there for millions of years. They eat rock. They live on minerals and sulfur in total darkness with no connection to us. When scientists tested them, they found something that should not have been possible. These microbes were resistant to antibiotics. Drugs invented by humans that they had never met, in a place humans had never been. Their resistance is far older than modern medicine. Older, maybe, than our whole species. They were ready for a war that had not started yet, deep in a cave that was never supposed to open. Wang Dong. Wang Dong is a cave so enormous it has its own weather. It lies in the mountains of China, and for a long time only local villagers knew the entrances were there. It was not until an international team went in with modern gear that anyone understood the scale of what was hidden below. Inside is a chamber called the Microbe Room. It is one of the largest cave spaces ever measured, big enough to hold entire skyscrapers with room to spare. When explorers first stood in it, their strongest lights could not reach the far walls or the roof. The darkness simply swallowed the beams. And a space that size does something strange, it makes its own climate. Warm, damp air rises from below and meets the cool air near the roof, and clouds form. Real clouds hanging inside the mountain. Mist drifts across an underground landscape that has its own hills and its own rivers. Standing in the Microbe Room, explorers described a horizon. An indoor horizon inside solid rock, where the ground curves away into fog and you cannot see the end of the room you are in. Caves this large were not supposed to be possible to miss. And yet this one sat under the hills of China, quietly making weather in the dark until only a few years ago. Hang Son Doong. Hang Son Doong is the largest cave on Earth, and it is so big it grew a jungle inside itself. It hides in the forests of Vietnam. A local man found the entrance in 1990, felt cold air and heard a river roaring underground, and was too afraid to go in. The way back was lost for years. It was not until 2009 that explorers finally entered and measured what he had found. It is almost beyond belief. In places the cave is over 500 feet high and just as wide. A city block of skyscrapers could stand inside it. An entire passenger jet could fly down its main passage. In 2 places the ceiling has collapsed, long ago opening the roof to the sky. Sunlight pours down through those gaps. And where the light falls, a jungle has grown. Real trees over 100 feet tall, reaching up out of the dark toward the holes in the roof. Birds and monkeys live down there in a forest sealed inside a mountain. The cave makes its own clouds, its own river, its own weather. It is a lost world in the most literal sense, and it is not fully explored. Deep inside, the way was blocked by a wall of wet rock almost 300 feet high. Divers have since pushed past it, into flooded tunnels beyond, linking it toward even more cave. The largest space on the planet was found only a few years ago. What else is down there in the parts no one has reached, the Earth is not telling us yet.